Hey there, Sim Racers. Captain Naxis here for the Tool for Forza YouTube channel, and this video today is going to be talking about my experience in going from a budget sim racing setup to a baller sim racing setup, and kind of what you get as you progress through different pricing points. I'm also going to talk about how to effectively spend your money in the Fanatec ecosystem, and I'm going to make a few predictions about Black Friday 2019. Black Friday 2017 was amazing for Fanatec. It was absolutely trash for 2018. So leave a comment down below on what you want to see go on sale for Black Friday from Fanatec this year. Hopefully it's good because I need to upgrade some stuff, and I'm going to talk about that as well. So, just a quick disclaimer before I start the video. I'm not going to talk about Thrustmaster at all. I only review and talk about things I have a lot of hands-on experience with, and I just have never gotten my hands on Thrustmaster stuff for an extended period of time. When I made the decision to upgrade from the Logitech wheel, I wanted to be able to get a load cell pedal for sure, and I wanted to be able to have these really sexy wheel rims that Fanatec sells, and for me that's the decision I made. So sorry, Thrustmaster guys, you can go ahead and just click dislike now. If you're looking for Thrustmaster reviews or information, I suggest you find a different video. So the way I'm going to structure this video, I'm going to try to keep it as brief as I can, but at the same time give you a lot of valuable information. I'm going to talk about specifications, things that are not subjective, so numbers, degrees of rotation, force output in Newton meters, etc. I'm also going to talk about some of the more subjective things, like how do they feel, what's my general opinion on them. I'm also going to talk about reliability, because that's a really important thing to consider when you're purchasing sim racing equipment, and it's an issue just kind of no matter what you get. So that's the nuts and bolts. Let's get into some of the content here. And we're going to start with an absolutely high-end, badass, sim racing wheel, the likes of which you can't even fathom, the Microsoft Xbox 360 wheel with 270 degrees of rotation and a whopping yes, count all of them, 1 Newton meters of torque. This thing served me really well. It's definitely a toy. They're super cheap. They were $100 when I used to have to buy them. And I say them because I used this from Forza 2 when that demo for that came out all the way up to Forza 6. And I broke 3 of them, but I used them all the time. They're a toy that's kind of to be expected. And I got a lot of bang for the buck, even though I broke a bunch of them. Absolutely adored this thing at the time. And, back then, I'm not saying that's sim racing anymore, but back then, I couldn't have a PC. I didn't have... I was living in an apartment with my girlfriend now, or my girlfriend who's my wife now at the time, and I just couldn't like get on the PC, master race wagon fully. So that being said, the next evolution in my sim racing was a huge step forward, and that's when I upgraded to what's really kind of the workhorse of the sim racing community, a super good wheel, and especially for the money, it's the best value in sim racing in my opinion for sure. The Logitech G series. These can be had for about $200. They come with 3 pedals. The shifter is typically $60, although you can find them on sale for $40 all the time. When I bought this, it was $400. I paid $60 for the shifting. I paid full price. I thought it was worth every penny. I was just blown away by this thing, and so here's why. Let's talk about some of the specs. So this has about 2.5 Newton meters of force output, which is way more than that other wheel. It's more than twice as much. So that was a huge thing. I'm a fan. I like my force feedback, like I like my drinks, strong, okay? It also had 900 degrees of rotation, which was a huge improvement over 270. I mean, that's literally a whole different world. As is having 3 pedals, being able to actually row through the gears in an H-pattern shifter and use the clutch was super fun. I was totally blown away by it, and again, there's nothing wrong with the G series wheel. It's the best bang for the buck. It still is, and you can shred on these things. You can win races on these things for sure. I don't believe that sim racing is a pay-to-win type of thing. I know plenty of super fast people, and they use the Logitech G series stuff, and they do great with it. So now that that's kind of out of the way, this thing is gear driven. This wheel is also gear driven. So when it comes to smoothness, it does not even come close to a belt driven, or definitely not a direct drive wheel. But again, I think that's what makes it reliable. And so let's jump into the reliability element of this whole thing here. So I had this wheel for 18 months. And I used it a lot in those 18 months. And what happened was, as I would turn the wheel, from side to side, it would press pause, it would hit Xbox buttons, and it gave me a bunch of, errors like that. So I went through the Logitech RMA process. In about 3 weeks, I had another wheel, which was, relatively quick. I was pretty happy with that. And that was my story there with the actual wheelbase itself. Now, the other issue I had was with the pedals. So the pedals, the way they detect what type of input you're applying to the pedals through a potentiometer. It's a very simple device. It just measures how much something moves. And the potentiometers needed to be blown out with contact cleaner with compressed air somewhat regularly. And I was used to doing that because I'm a bass player. I had to blow some of that stuff out in some of my older bass amps as well. It's super easy to do. It takes a few minutes, and you know, it's not like a deal breaker at all. It still makes these things reliable. Another issue I had to fix was the potentiometer on the gas pedal came loose where it would start to move. So it would apply inputs that weren't there, or if I would go to full throttle, it would only read like 95%. So I glued that in place, no problems there. And that's about the story with the G920. It's you know, it's a really fantastic wheel for $240. You get 3 pedals, a shifter, and a this. It's pretty incredible. I don't have the pedals here to show you because I took them apart and gave them each individual pedals away to different people in Tool for Fours to make handbrakes with. That's a way you can repurpose your Logitech pedals, so that's why those aren't up here. So that's about that. This thing is awesome. If anyone hates on one of these Logitech G Series wheels, they're just a hater, and you really shouldn't listen to any advice they have about sim racing, in my opinion. You know, if you're a fan and if you win a lot of races on a Logitech, put a comment down below so people can see that I'm not full of BS there. All right. Let's move on to the Fanatec stuff. So before I jump into the Fanatec stuff, I just want to say that there's an affiliate link down below in the description, and the proceeds from that affiliate link, they go to the Tool for Forza Racing Club General Fund, and that money is used to fund our Assetto Corsa servers. It's used to fund our website, and it's also used to fund some of the charity work that we do for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and that's for another video and another stream. So if you found this video valuable and it helped you make a purchasing decision on Fanatec, please use the link below before you go to the website to make your purchase. I'd really, really appreciate that. Now that I'm done shilling Tool for Forza like a total knob, let's talk about my experience making the jump from the G Series to the CSL. So I did that in 2017. I did it on Black Friday. So what I ended up buying was the CSL Elite wheelbase, the P1 wheel rim that you see here. I bought the bundle that came with the 2 CSL Elite pedal set, and at the time it was actually cheaper to buy the bundle with the pedals than it was to buy the wheel rim and the base individually. So I saved money by getting the bundle with the pedals, so that's why I have the CSL Elite pedals. If you've seen the stream, you know that I used the V3 inverteds. Those were on sale on Black Friday. They were $300. They're usually $600, so I just couldn't say no to that, and I threw those in the cart as well. I also got the V1.5 shifter and the V1.5 handbrake. So all that stuff ended up costing me $1,058 shipped to my door, which is a super good value in my opinion. And if you're curious what I'm doing with the CSL Elite pedals, I'm going to be giving them away here. If you can guess my track car, I'll put up a little picture here now that's under the car cover. Guess the track cover. The shirt and the hat might help you figure that out, and that's all we'll say about the giveaway. So when I made the jump after about 2 years on the G Series wheel, I was immediately like impressed by the CSL Elite. It definitely exceeded my expectations, and it exceeded my expectations because it was so much more smooth than the gear-driven wheel with the belt. That's a massive, massive improvement. The strength is a massive improvement. This has 6 Newton meters versus 2.5 for the G Series, so it's more than twice as strong again. And like I said, it likes strong force feedback. It also has, you know, the good ecosystem of Fanatec's a big selling point of Fanatec. They have a bunch of different beautiful wheel rims. I'm not going to go into purchasing details on wheel rims because I only have 2 of them here, and it's pretty self-explanatory with all those. But I will say that being able to tune on the wheel is another thing that I really found attractive to the Fanatec gear. And yeah, if you've seen any of my other videos on setting up force feedback, you know that my opinion on that is that you should set up as much as you can in the software and leave the wheel settings as close to, you know, not adding any effects or amplifying or taking anything down as much as you can. Now, there's a lot of titles, Forza Motorsport being the prominent one, where you can't get enough self-aligning torque. So like the drift setting on here makes the self-aligning torque happen a lot faster. So when you're sliding from like side to side, the wheel self-steers a lot faster, which is a really big deal for drifting, and it definitely can help with racing as well. I also really like the FEI setting. As you increase the FEI setting on here, that's forced effect intensity. It starts to feel more like a direct drive. I'm not saying it feels like a direct drive because it doesn't, but it does feel more like a direct drive as you increase that setting. I also like being able to adjust the brake, pressure setting right on the wheel real time as well. If you jump into a car that has really touchy brakes, you can add additional pressure that's required to trigger the brakes. We're going to talk about pedals in detail later in this video. So That's why I chose Fanatec. Super, super happy. This thing is, I mean, you get a lot of wheelbase. This thing's $400 now, and that's a lot of wheelbase for $400. And so that's a good segue kind of into the buyer's guide part of this video. And I'm going to explain right now why I think we're going to see the V2.5 is one of the Black Friday sales. So when I was doing research for this video, I was looking at the Fanatec website and to get the specs on the CSL, and it's rated at 6 Newton meters, and that's really the only technical specification that they provide. The V2.5 didn't have any torque rating on it, which I thought was kind of funny, you know. So I am suspecting that the motor in the CSL version 1.1 is probably the same as the motor that's in the 2.5, and maybe it's turned down a little bit. Maybe there's a different motor driver in there, you know, that takes maybe a Newton meter or so out of the force feedback. But in my opinion, for $350 for the CSL Elite PC version or $400 for the PS4 version versus $550 for the V2.5, I think that you save the $200 or $150 that you know don't spend on the 2.5, and you put that towards your brakes. And once we get into the brake section, you'll see why I think that's the best way to spend your money, by just going with the CSL and avoiding the 2.5, unless there's some sort of awesome Black Friday shenanigans, which would be great. So now that everyone that also has a 2.5 has clicked thumbs down, this video is going to be really, really good. Awesome YouTube results here in the analytics. I'm excited already about how that's going to look. You know, so that's a quick tip right there. Let's talk about reliability, and then we'll move on to pedals, reviewing the bundles that Fanatec currently has. Their new website just got refreshed, and then after we've done that, we'll talk about the DD. So reliability, the wheelbase is not giving me any problems at all. It's been flawless. That's awesome. And this thing, I used it at 100% maximum force feedback and maximum FEI, turned up all the way every second that I used it. So know that. So what did happen is the P1 wheel rim is definitely entry level. And so if you'll see here now, I have a fancy quick release on here that I bought from a guy aftermarket that no longer sells them. It's 3D printed. It's pretty trick. But on the factory snout for this, it's all plastic, and that snout cracked right along the bottom here as it slides onto the shaft. And that's a pretty pervasive problem. I've seen quite a few other people that have had that problem. If you're going to run this thing at full force feedback or have it on a 2.5, you know, that's the wheel that comes, the 2.5 bundle, I would be aware of that issue, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. The other thing that happens with these wheels is so this back plate needs to get screwed into the metal face of the wheel, and the way they do that is they actually fixture these like plastic receivers that are threaded that this back piece, you know, actually threads into on the metal part, and those break off over time. It's happened on this one because I've had it on my direct drive, and I've been honestly kind of thrashing on it. I knew that was going to happen. It still functions just fine. It's no big deal, but I'd remiss if I did not tell you about those issues that I had with the P1. So Fanatec did an RMA for the cracking issue the first time. I got my wheel in about 3 weeks from them on that, and it was really no drama. So that's kind of the story there. The other stuff I've had break is the shifter. It was misshifting on me like all the time. Like I go into third, it would put me into reverse. It's another pervasive issue with Fanatec stuff, but luckily it's really easy to fix. All you got to do is put some tape on the back of the 2 PCB boards that are inside the shifter housing, and you're good to go. It takes about 10 minutes, and all you need is electrical tape and a pick and a lighter. And anyways, I'll put the video link up in here if you need to fix your shifter. It's super, super easy. The shifter's phenomenal. It does really good H pattern shifting. I love the way the shifter feels, and it also does sequential at the flip of a switch. So literally you slide a slider forward and you're in sequential mode. I absolutely love the Fanatec shifter, especially now that it's working flawlessly since I put that electrical tape on there. The handbrake, for 120 bucks, I like it. I'm not blown away by it. But it works. It does feel a little bit like a toy. The shifter does not feel like a toy. And the CSL Elite, it does feel like a toy with the P1 rim on there. But once you put on just something like, say, like a Formula or Formula Carbon or anything that's basically not a P1, it definitely, you know, gets you into the threshold of not feeling like a toy anymore. And while we're on the subject of toys, so I think that's a big difference between the Fanatec CSL pedals and the Fanatec V3 pedals is the CSLs are really designed for drivers that are probably going to be driving in socks. You're not looking for that like super firm, you know, brake feeling. And if that's what you want, they're functionally fantastic. They're great pedals, but they feel like toys. If you want to get out of the toy zone and get into the, maybe we'll call it man zone. I don't know if that might be too strong, but anyway, so the CSL pedals, for 2 of them, with no load cell on the brake, so gas and brake, no clutch, no load cell, it's $100. For the 3-pedal kit that comes with clutch, brake with the load cell and gas, that's only $200, and that's a super good bang for the buck. For 200 bucks, that's a hell of a lot of pedals. That's awesome kit right there. And if you're not trying to have maximum firm brake feel, that's what you get. But I like a really firm brake. Race cars have firm brakes, and I think having a firm brake actually helps you be more controlled under braking. So that combined with them not feeling like toys or why I opted to go into the V3 land, and why I think you probably should too. Now, again, I went with the V3Is because they were $300 at the time. They were the same price as the V3s were back then. They've gone up $50 in price. They're $350 now for the V3s. The V3 inverted is still $600, and it's great. So some of the features that the V3s have is they have a load cell in them, which is, again, phenomenal. So what's a load cell? Why does everyone talk about load cells? So they're not a potentiometer that just measures travel. A load cell is actually a pressure, sensor. So the amount of force that you apply to the brake pedal is everything to do with how much brakes you're actually applying. The actual movement of the pedal has nothing to do with it, and that's super realistic. My vintage track car has manual brakes. The pedal hardly moves. It's all about how much pressure you put in. It feels super realistic, and I think it gives you a lot more control. And the general consensus in the sim racing community is that load cell brake pedals are really the best bang for the buck if you want to get faster at sim racing through just purchasing equipment. So that's my advice there. The other cool things about the V3s is they come with 2 springs for the throttle. They come with a lighter spring and a stiffer spring. I put the stiffer spring on there. I really like the way the stiff spring feels. It also comes with different pedal faces, so you can put 2 different types of actual what your foot is on the actual pedal face itself. That can be changed. You have choices there, which is really cool. It has an option to add the damper, and oh my God, do not get the damper. It's $80, and it's a chunk of crap. I can't believe that people get swindled into buying the damn damper on the brakes. So I know about the damper because the V3Is come with it factory. And when I was messing around with all the settings and geeking out like I love to do, I found my lap times were trash with that damper turned up because the pedal would return slowly. And that's exactly what a damper does in the car. If you think how a damper works in a car is your spring is moving, the damper, it dampens the movement of the spring on compression or on the rebound. That's what a damper does. That's exactly what it does on the Fanatec pedals as well. It'd be really cool if the damper would only work on compression but wouldn't work on rebound, but it definitely has rebound damping in it too, which is not good. That means you get off the brakes and your brake slowly returns up. Anyways, now everyone that has a damper is going to click thumbs down. So now I've got everyone's clicking thumbs down at this point. I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot, but I'm just telling you the truth, guys. That's what this is all about. I'm not like a YouTuber. I'm here to try to actually grow a sim racing community. This is not about YouTube for me. So enough rambling on about that. Now, what I think is worth the money, even though it's bullshit, it doesn't come with the pedals factory, and it's bullshit that they charge you $13 for shipping for a box that's the size of a freaking CD case, is the brake performance kit. So I have a video on how to get the most out of your pedals without the brake performance kit, and that's from using the spring on the back. So you can actually adjust the amount of pressure it takes to move the pedal by a spring, and even without on the V3s, that's not available on the CSLs. So that's really great, but it is better for sure with the brake performance kit. And again, if you've gone nuts and you've got like more than $1,000 invested in your sim racing stuff, I hate to say it, but I think that $43, all in is definitely money well spent. For the brake performance kit. I have mine on the second to most stiff setting, and I really, really like it. I did have to back the spring off a little bit from the firmest setting, but there's lots of other good videos on how to set up that stuff, so that's why I haven't bothered to do one. So that pretty much covers the pedals. So point being is that the price difference between CSL, the 3-pedal CSL kit at $200 and the V3s, it's $150, and that's the same $150 you're going to save, and maybe more if you don't get the, if you get the PC version of the CSL Elite wheelbase between the V2.5, right? The V2.5 is $550. The CSL V1.1 for the PC is only $350. So you've saved $250. So that covers the price of your V3s and your brake performance kit right there. And personally, that's definitely what I would do if I was getting into Fanatec stuff for sure. I would not buy the V3 pedals for $600, and here's why. And this is also why I think the V3 inverted pedals are going to be for sale on Black Friday in 2019, is because Husingfeld has come out with their Sprint pedals, and they're only $650, and they are definitely better than the V3 inverted pedals. Husingfeld makes amazing stuff, and in the future, that might be one of my next purchases, maybe in the next, down the road. I really love my V3Is right now, but for an extra 50 bucks, definitely get the Husinkenfelds, but I think Fanatec's going to respond to that competition, and they're going to give us a good deal on the V3Is for Black Friday. And again, I don't have any inside information. This is just me speculating as a consumer in the market. I really love to see competition, and I hope that it pans out in lower prices for us. So those are all my predictions on Black Friday, just that we're going to see the V2.5 on sale, and that we're going to, because of competition from the CSL internally, and I think we're going to see the V3 inverted pedals also on sale because of competition from Husinkenfeld. So let's see here. I guess it's time to talk about, well, let's talk about the DD here, and then we'll go into the bundles and kind of try to make sense of the bundles on Fanatec because they're a little bit wonky. So is it worth the money, you know, going from a $350 or $400 wheelbase up to spending $1,200 to $1,500 on a DD? And the answer is I can't tell you if it's worth it or not, because it depends on how much you sim race, it depends on how much of a nerd you are, it depends on how much disposable income you have. For me, I'm a huge nerd and I sim race all the time, and I like kind of almost had enough disposable income. So I ended up buying the DD1 when it was only $1,000. It has since gone up in price to $1,200. And nowadays, even though the motors are the same in the DD1 and the DD2, the only difference in the product itself, you know, besides the Newton meter output, it's 25 for the DD2 and it's 20 for the DD1, is the motor driver. And so the motor driver just caps the torque at 20 on this thing essentially. And then of course the cases there, you get a carbon fiber case on the DD2, you just get a black case on the DD1. So, and I'm sorry I didn't take it off my rig, but we've all seen what the DD looks like. You know, that's not valuable content. So let me see here. So nowadays I would opt for the DD2, and here's why. So the DD2 has 25 Newton meters versus 20 Newton meters of the DD1. It has a 5-year warranty versus a 2-year warranty for the DD1, and it comes with a kill switch, which I never thought I'd use until my computer crashed. My wheel started spinning around like a freaking helicopter, and I had to like reach around carefully behind and shut the thing off. It would have been nice to have a kill switch for that. And nowadays, just for the warranty and those extra 5 Newton meters alone, if you're already spending $1,200, you're living that YOLO life. You've gone off the deep end. You're a psychopath. You might as well just admit it and go all the way and get the DD2 for sure nowadays for that extra $300. I think that's definitely the way to go. Now, I'm saying that, and I'm a DD1 guy, and you're like, this guy's full of shit. Yeah, but I only paid $1,000 for this thing. So the $500 there, you know, we'll see if I get burned on that thing or not. I've had this for about 4 months. I've had 0 reliability issues, and I absolutely love the DD2. The fidelity is so with this thing, it's belt driven. So there's a motor, you know, that has a little gear, and then there's the shaft here that has a little gear, and there's a belt that connects those 2 gears on here. So there's inherently going to be some fidelity loss compared to a direct drive wheel because you are literally holding on to the output shaft of the motor. There's no, you know, hijinks with belts or gears or any shit like that. It's just you're holding on to the shaft, you know, and as bad as that might sound, it's a good thing for sure. So what do you get from gripping the shaft? A video is completely off the rails now. You get the additional fidelity. It like, especially going over curbs and things like that, and just small effects. This wheelbase really translates those small effects much better than a belt-driven wheel does. The speed, the self-aligning torque on this thing is so fast you have to actually apply a damper on it to slow it down because it's unrealistically fast, and that's just what you want. It's like having a 1,000 horsepower car and showing up to race somebody. You know you've got all the power you need and you can back it down if you have to. It's the same thing here. You get more than you need with the DD wheel, which is really good. Of course, the strength, talking about more than you need. So the most I run this thing up to when I'm actually using it is around 15 Newton meters when I'm racing, and even that is a workout. I could never imagine actually running this thing up to consistently be hitting 20 Newton meters in race with. So for me, that was another reason why the DD2 didn't make a lot of sense. Is 25 Newton meters is a lot. It is an ass kicker. Watch anyone do a 100% force feedback video on a direct drive wheel, and you'll definitely see what I mean. I've actually done one here when I did the flex testing, which is a good thing to talk about. So there is some flex. If you look at my video on that, you know, when you go like this side to side, but you have to put a ton of force into the thing like this, which is not really a thing in sim racing. The forces are going like this, not like this. I've never really detected the flex. It doesn't, if a fix comes out from Fanatec and a factory fix comes, or a really easy, company comes out with like a 3D printed one that's affordable that I can just buy, don't have access to a 3D printer, then I'll probably go ahead and do that. But honestly, I don't think it's an issue. And I think the benefit you get from being in the Fanatec ecosystem with all the different wheel rim options and just from kind of the having like it just works element of it, I think it's worth that little bit of flex that Barry Rowland exposed in his video, and then I did a follow-up video on when I kind of dove in on it. Here's a link to that up above. So far I've had no reliability issues whatsoever with this thing, knock on wood, and hopefully that continues. I will say that the new Fanalabs software that came out is good. And it doesn't do anything unless you have oscillation problems, which I have not had any oscillation problems in the titles I've tried. So that's the only additional tuning function that's not available on the wheel that's in Fanalabs. So the two additional tuning functions you get on this thing are natural friction, which makes the wheel feel more heavy as you put input into it. And, if it like neutral when you're just going straight and there's no real heavy force being applied to you, makes it harder to turn. As you turn that up, it actually starts to feel a little bit grainy once you get over 5. I typically run that setting around 2 or 3. The other setting, and this is a really important one, I think it's like the most important setting on a DD when it comes to tuning, is the natural damper setting. So what that determines is the speed and overall force at which the wheel applies self-aligning torque and effects from like big curbs and bumps and things like that. You have to slow that. If you run that at 0 on this thing, it's not even going to feel like a car. It's going to feel like you're holding on to the shaft of an electric motor. It's not going to feel like a car. So on open wheelers, I run it right around 15. On cars, that are maybe less racy or vintage cars, I maybe run it all the way up as high as 30, just depending on how I think, I want to make a different experience feel. But it's all super tunable. It's amazing. All the other tuning options you have on all the other Fanatec wheels are present on this, and the tuning is huge. One thing on that, Fanatec, we need you to add something to Fanalabs. We need you to add a way to adjust the dampening from self-aligning torque and from bumps and curbs independently from one another. I would like to keep my violence handy from bumps and curbs, but I would like to be able to turn the dampening up, increase dampening from self-aligning torque independently from bumps. So Fanatec, I know you're not watching because I'm a nobody, but anyways, please do that. If you want to see other improvements on Fanalabs, comment on that below as well. So I think that about kind of covers the progression. I'm going to talk really quickly about the bundles because they're kind of crazy. They're pretty confusing. So there's 3 bundles available right now. I'm going to go from the cheapest to the most expensive. So the current CSL bundle that's out right now gives you the CSL Elite Wheelbase PlayStation 4. It gives you a Formula rim. It's not the Formula carbon, but it's functionally the same. And it gives you the Elite with 2 pedals. So if you bought those alone, they'd be $750. If you get the bundle, you save $50. Pretty straightforward. If you're trying to play F1 games or you're really into GT3 cars or you're not, or if you're just getting into sim racing and you don't want to jump right into the clutch and shifting thing because that's a whole nother element of complexity, I get that, then that's the best way to go for sure. That's the bundle that makes sense from Fanatec, in my opinion. You save $50. Why not? There's the Xbox One bundle. So this bundle is $800, so it's only an additional $100. So you get the V2.5, which we talked about, which is retailing for $550 right now from Fanatec. You get the P1, which retails for $170. And you get the same CSL Elite 2 pedal setup, and that's let's see here, $800 is the bundle. Now, if you buy it alone, it's $820, so it's a $20 savings. I don't think that's a good way to spend your money because of the shortcomings I expressed previously about the 2.5, in my opinion, being a little bit overpriced. I would piecemeal if you don't, if you want to not just be formula racing, I would buy everything independently and not get sucked into that bundle. And that leads me into the Forza Motorsport wheel bundle, which really makes no sense. So it's $1,500. It comes with V2.5, comes with V3 pedals, comes with the universal hub, which is really nice, and it comes with the D-shaped steering wheel, which I'm not real big on D-shaped steering wheels, but I'm sure a lot of people are. Click thumbs down if you like D-shaped steering wheels. It also comes with the shifter. All that stuff is $1,500 on its own, so there's no savings. I think it might come with a copy of Forza Motorsport, which is going to be dirt cheap now anyways, so I don't get it. But the point is, you can see Fanatec is pushing the 2.5 in their bundles, and I think that indicates why I might be correct about my Black Friday guess. So that wraps up this video. If you found this useful, please click like and consider subscribing. Again, and definitely join us on Discord for some racing on Assetto Corsa, and join us on Xbox Live, whether it's via Xbox or the computer. It's crossplay for racing on Forza Motorsport 7. We're not an elitist sim racing community. We're very down to earth. We do this to help people. We do this to get people into sim racing because it's so damn fun. And that's why this page is here. So I really appreciate the support. I appreciate you guys watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time.